Live from Taos, New Mexico, it's the To Walk with Giants podcast, featuring indie comic book creator Cody Fernandez and indie musical artist Christopher Messick.
All right. Howdy, folks. Welcome to Walk with Giants. I'm one of the hosts, Cody Fernandez, and I'm joined by the ever incredible.
Christopher Messick, aka Laguna Munta. Thanks for joining us. If you're out there listening, we appreciate it.
Very, very much so. We've got an interesting giant to cover today. Chaos.
Indeed.
Um, where do we want to start with chaos? I mean, I guess you just want to pick a point and go, right?
Well, I have a good. Well, I don't know if it's great, but it's interesting. I have a story that I think is a good jumping off point.
Oh, perfect. Go for it.
Okay, so I am a movie fan, Cody. You know this.
Yes.
Most who know me know this. I collect films and I watch a lot. I worked at a video store for 10 years, so I'm a big movie fan. So there's a film I'd been wanting to get for a long time because I'd seen some visuals from it and it just seemed really beautiful. And it was by the acclaimed director Akira Kurosawa, and I had never seen any of his films. And I was like, well, this looks like a good one to start with because the visuals caught me. And so for maybe 6 months, I've been toying with buying Ron. I've looked online and just checked eBay and just hadn't pulled the trigger. And then I was looking at other movies, and another movie I wanted to buy randomly on a whim, and it was in a lot on eBay with Ron also in that same lot. And I was like, oh, perfect. I will just buy this lot and I will kill two birds with one stone. So I did that. And then Wednesday, I texted Cody. I said, hey, Cody, do you want to just go ahead and do chaos for next week's topic? Because he had brought it up previously
I did.
about a potential topic. And I just shot him a text on Wednesday. I was like, hey, let's do chaos. And he's like, let's do it. And so Saturday, I sat down and I watched Ron, or I laid down actually.
Oh.
And it's a long film. It's about 3 hours long, but it was fantastic.
That's
Highly recommend it. And it was strange. While I was watching it, I found a lot of relatable material to the current topic of chaos. And I was like, well, I'm probably finding what I'm looking for. And I thought, I was like, what a happy coincidence. And then today I was like, I was at work and I was just curious. And I said, I don't even know what Ron means. I should look that up. And I looked up Ron and it means chaos. So I thought that was pretty interesting. This chaos situation created cosmos. So
Mm.
that's my little
Oh,
story
that's
that I
great.
thought was
A little bit
interesting.
of
So then,
synchronicity there. I always love that. You got to pay attention to
and
that.
and that's one of the beautiful things about chaos is the synchronicity that we get.
Oh, I agree. To stay on Kurosawa, because that's a great starting point actually. So the film I'm most familiar with of his is Seven Samurai. Um,
Right, that's probably his most famous.
Yeah, and oh, again, incredible film. I love it. I watched a long documentary on his filmmaking style before I ever checked out any of his movies. I watch a lot of documentaries and just stuff on art and artists and how people put things together. All of that bring order to a bunch of chaos. And Kurosawa
Right.
really loves having movement of the elements in his cinematography: wind, rain, fire, um, anything that's just movement. He really doesn't like stillness except for when it's very very planned. And the chaos of elements is something that I'm betting was used quite a bit in Ron. Am I right?
Well, yes and no.
Yeah. Okay.
More of the chaos so it's based on Shakespeare's King Lear
Oh.
and also some other like Japanese folklore. And so it's essentially my take on it is it's about a man whose his life's decisions and the ghosts of his past and everything that he's done all coming back to haunt him.
Oh.
And him, by trying to create harmony, does the opposite.
Oh.
Because in the beginning he's effectively saying he wants to step down and give his power to his three sons. Eldest would get the first castle, second and third, so on. And the third youngest son, he's not having it. He is furious about this. And he even says to his father, he said, "You," because his father's been waging war for 50 years.
Okay.
So these kids grew up in this blood-torn land. And that's what the youngest son, Saburo, says. He says, we were your sons. We were raised in chaos. And now you expect us to live in harmony? What are you thinking? How is this possible? And that kind of sets off.
Okay.
Well, the father stepping down really sets off the chain of events, but the youngest son speaking out sets off even more events, and it eventually just devolves into this brother on brother warfare. And it eventually it's the end of the clan. It just destroys everything.
Huh. So I'll lead it into one of the quotes I picked up. This one's from Steve Martin, actually. Chaos in the midst of chaos isn't funny, but chaos in the midst of order is.
True.
And so what you were just talking about was chaos in the midst of chaos, and obviously that doesn't work. And again, it's like you want to take us from that and to have us, not fight when that's what we've done our whole lives.
To be brothers and like help each other, and we're supposed to be this like unit. It just doesn't compute.
Yeah. But again, and I guess for Steve Martin, he's like, well, and or even oh no, what's his name? Actor from Airplane.
Leslie Nielsen.
Thank you, Leslie Nielsen. He always carried his little fart machine, right? And he just used it all the time. And so that's it. Like he's in the middle of an interview or whatever, and just
legend.
Exactly. And so that's what Steve Martin's talking about. I totally agree. And that's funny chaos. Yeah. That's a positive chaos. It's an uplifting chaos.
It's the klutz in the antique store in the movie.
Yes.
Or the loud guy in the library.
Exactly. It's definitely a less bloody form of chaos, because war is one of the most significant forms of that there is.
And true. But when chaos is such a great chaos is a necessary force for creation. Without chaos, we have stagnation, right?
Well, what is it? The Chinese word for chaos is also means opportunity, right? Something like that.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, it's one of those dual things where, it means that. It just depends on the subject you're talking about, right? But to them, how it's viewed and structured, it's the same thing. But anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. It's fine. And no, that was one of the first things I thought of when we agreed to do this topic. I thought, well, it's such an important creative force. Whenever we are writing or thinking of new material, we're reaching into the realm of chaos, and we're trying to harness it and transform it into this cosmos. We're trying to bring order to it. But if everything was in order, there'd be no creative spark. There'd be nothing pushing forward. There'd be no drive, no kind of unforeseen turn of events that pushes your life forward, a random act of fate or God, that is chaos, that changes things and forces you to act or to respond, and thus creates something new. So it's one of these things that we as artists try to harness, but we could never fully harness it, nor should we try, but we're constantly reaching into that realm and trying to pull things out and shape them to our will. And that's the beauty of chaos. And sometimes it goes completely the other way also.
That's true. So to sum up a lot of what you said, another quote, and this one's from Bob Dylan: "Chaos is a friend of mine. You don't want to control it, but you do want to interact with it and know it and utilize it and work with it." And I just thought that was a good one too. I was like, oh, okay, I could see him him saying that.
Chaos is a friend of mine.
Exactly. But yeah, I think. I mean, it's one of those out of the giants we've talked about. This one's very duplicitous. Of course, it's great for creation. Without it, of course, there is no creation. There's no potentiality. There's no movement. Everything's stagnant if it's pure order, right? But at the
Yeah.
same time, it can be very a life without any order, without any stability, where blown to and from. You're lucky if you survive it.
Well, that's what becomes of that the Great Lord in Ron.
Oh,
That's what happens to him. Yeah, he has this dream in the beginning of the film where he says, "I was lost on this wasteland, and there was nobody, and I called out, and nobody answered." And it was a sort of a premonition because he becomes this man without a land, without a kingdom, and he's just being blown through this wasteland of his life, figuratively and literally. He runs upon the burnt down kingdoms of people he's killed and kingdoms that he's sacked, and he's just haunted by it. And he could have maybe gone there, had he not done that.
yeah.
And yeah, it's I'm really glad that I watched it before this. It's a fortuitous turn of
Yeah, no,
events
that's
for
hilarious, and
chaos.
I had no idea that yeah, no, that's a great. Again, I love those little synchronicities. That's great. Um, Here's another quote that's kind of interesting. I'm not familiar with who said it, Jamie Price. I don't know this individual, but chaos is the space of change that has not yet harmonized or synchronized.
Oh, so it's that flux state kind of.
Before things settle, right? Or
Yeah,
align
yeah,
and
the storm,
interlock. And I
right?
think that's yeah, I think that's a good way of phrasing it. It's definitely a unique way. That's why I grabbed it. Um,
Yeah, it's like an idea at its spark. It is chaos
oh, there you
because it could
go.
be.
Here's another one from Friedrich Nietzsche. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a star.
Nice.
But yeah, I
True.
know the most chaotic experiences and most chaotic parts of my life that I have gone through have certainly led to great growth and change. And I think it's important to recognize chaos's role in that so that you don't. Some people confront it as a concept or an idea and they become very fearful and then they become dominating.
Yeah,
And
totally.
that's very detrimental to your own growth. And I work with animals, and dominating critters is not the way. You flow with their bits of chaos, and that's how it works. Um, Animals in general are like that. There's small bits of communication you can have, but most of it's like what are they going to want to do? It's not actually a control situation. Um,
Hmm.
and so from that and from those experiences, I've definitely found again, as Bob Dylan said, chaos is a friend. It's just one that you need
Yes.
to respect.
Yeah, and also it's not a friend you want to have over all the time.
There you go.
It's a friend for specific events.
Yeah.
It's that friend that you love, but you have to keep at an arm's length for both of your sakes.
Yeah.
You can't invite chaos to live with you.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a big
at
one.
least not permanently. Maybe temporarily that would be good.
Well,
But
I know some people can thrive in it, but since I'm not one of those,
yeah,
I can't speak to the the actual benefits of that. I know when things have been extremely chaotic, that's very hard on me. Um,
yeah.
but at the same time, again, it's a growth thing. It's growing pains is how I would closest
Well,
thing
it's
I
an
talk to it.
opportunity for growth.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really is. These challenges that get thrust upon us, these minor or great, hurdles that get set before us that we have to sort out. And yeah, I like the idea of chaos being a friend because it's adventure.
Mm.
And that's one of the best things about life is the adventure of it, is not knowing everything that's going to happen. And granted, there are some adventures that end terribly, and there are adventures that end in tragedy. But if you knew how it was going to end, it wouldn't be special.
Yeah.
And if you, if you knew everything was going to come at you, it wouldn't be real. We would just be play acting, the events that we knew were going to come to fruition. We would just play our part and play our way through them. But since we are, we're not these prescient beings, and we are under the influence of chaos all the time, and we do our best to try to control it and have our way. That's one of the things that makes life worth living, is the chaos of it.
Oh, that's the other bit of it too, right? Rigidity, the having a rhythm that is so constant and pulsing without any shift or movement. I mean, if you anybody who enjoys music, that some folks that gives them peace because the spaces around them are not so much that. But again, I found great solace in oh, it went this way and then it moved this way and then it moved that way, right? Or as soon as I got used to a rhythm, something changed.
I
That
want to grab something to show
Go
to
for
bring
it.
up, but I'll be right back.
Go for it. So I think I don't know. It's a powerful magic chaos, and it's I mean it's a whole school of magic, chaos magic. But at the end of the day, it's a tool, and it's something that needs to be respected. Like most of the giants we've spoken about on this, um, the hmm, the space in which it occupies needs to you gotta pay attention to. Hmm.
So I'm gonna try to find a passage that I read today.
Oh, okay.
Today I finished my third read through of Dune.
Oh, nice.
I finished the appendices today, and there's a good part in here that totally is related to chaos. So if you have something interesting to discuss in the meantime, I'm gonna find this passage.
Well, one of it would be asking on your thoughts. So keep looking. But there's a quote from where was it? I just had it. Oh, okay. It's a quote from Buddha. Chaos is inherent in all compounded things. Strive on with diligence. So,
Yeah.
not to get lost in that, but anything that's made up of any two or more things is going to be that relationships, um, again, life, whatever, basically everything you experience because it's the self and other, is going to inevitably involve chaos. Um, and it's just to what degree is acceptable until you need to find your peace and your order. Oh, like I've got a bunch of critters around me and they're doing pretty well, but they've been waiting all day for me to get home from work, and
Okay, here we
they're a
go.
little chaotic, you know.
I found it.
Okay, okay.
So if for those who have read the book, this is well, you've seen the movie. So yeah, Max von Sydow's character Liat Kynes.
You're gonna, yeah, it's been a bit, but keep going.
Oh, he's the imperial planetologist. This is his father, the first planetologist of Dune, Pardo Kynes.
Okay.
He says that where were we? Kynes, direct, savagely intent Kynes, knew that highly organized research is guaranteed to produce nothing new. He set up, so, well, that's basically just the quote. But I thought that was because he knew that organized and specific experiments weren't going to help him find anything else. So he had to randomize things and mix people up and just throw a bunch of kind of random chaos into the mix to get things further. And that's kind of a theme in Dune. It's one of the main themes, is kind of maybe a little bit beneath the surface. It's not as active as this idea of getting out of stagnation. Mankind sort of being in this stagnant point and needing to move past that.
Non chaos is that's the tool. That's the only path
Yes.
forward out of that period. So no, I totally agree with that. Again, what is it? So still, there's a quote about still water that was coming to mind, but it is passing through my brain. Um, the we keep coming back to it, and it's very true. Chaos is that it's potential, it is opportunity, it is almost everything, to be honest, but it's the potential of everything.
Right.
And it's also the movement of it moment to moment. It's definitely it's the opposite of stagnation and true order, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
too much of it will destroy you.
Absolutely.
Just
Again, you
like
don't
too
move,
much,
your heart doesn't move, you're done. I mean, it's how it
right,
goes.
just like too much order and too much discipline, or whatever you might want to call it, too much cosmos, uh, it doesn't affect growth. It's a system that's orderly, but is it a system that's growing? Is it a system that's pushing? And especially in art, uh, like what we do, discipline and orderliness aren't really part of it. That's, I mean, well, that's wrong. They're not. They're not. Well, in my opinion, those kind of is where things get screwy. Because
Yes.
when you have an idea and you have this concept, and it's just this in this maelstrom of ideas, and and then you try to harness it, and then you try to make it into something, that's where it gets dicey, right? That's the tricky part,
Yes.
is the transformation into cosmos. Whereas the chaos part, that's fun.
It's fun, and it's very self-fulfilling. That's the other bit too. It fuels itself far
Um,
easier than regimented disciplinary rigidity to things. Again, as you said, it's more fun. It's also more of a natural state. Having those rhythms and those consistent beats, it's absolutely necessary to any project's survival. Right? You have these certain things that have worked that you repeat. Right? But you have to be willing to understand that every time you're doing it, it is a new time, and so you're inviting chaos every time, and so you got to look at that chaos and learn from it. Again, it's a friend, and adapt and grow to that, and that it's oh, it's a heck of a thing.
do you have any examples of, like, sort of a chaotic instance going your way, in life or in your pursuit of
So the
art?
chaos that's always worked for me is like when I recognize it as opportunity and I let it flow and I do my bit to push it forward, right? Like
Right.
I don't just let it go by. So you got to grab it and hold on to it, and move with it. But I also don't, try to freak it out and shake it up even more. I let it be what it is and then ride that. So I mean, the first thing that got me doing comics, right, is just throwing random stuff. How I Met My Artist, that was total chaos. All marketing I've ever done is chaos, honestly. I have an idea, but like I don't know how it's gonna go back and forth. Networking in every person, people. Just dealing with people. People is chaos. There's almost no aspect again, as that Buddha quote, it's inherent in all compound things. So anytime it's self interacting with anything else, it's gonna have chaos. And
Right. It's that's almost the Buddha. He's into some quantum physics there.
that's yeah, we can go back again. So Buddhism's off of Hinduism, and that goes to the core of things. But it's and again, there you go, that one too. If we want to go to that realm of it, you go with Schrodinger, right? Well, it's not collapsed till you interact with it. Until then, it's potential. It's nothing but potential. So it's nothing but
Right,
chaos.
and that's why I don't dislike a blank canvas of
Mm-hmm.
sorts, because it's all potential until I get in there
Yep.
with my limitations. You know, I yeah, that's I love that part of it. I love the potential
Yes.
of chaos, and that I think that's why thinking is so attractive to creators, and obviously people in general who just daydream or come up with ideas and just run them through their head. It's the purest space for those ideas, and it's the space where they can exist the least malformed by our inept, grubby little paws, because it it's untouched. And so, so many, we can all have brilliant ideas, and I mean, some people have better imaginations than others, but you can visualize a beautiful castle that you want to build, and you can imagine every single detail. But when it comes down to building it, harnessing that image into reality, that's where it breaks down. That's the difficult part. So the imagining and the blank canvas and the potential of it all, that's the real beauty. And it's I guess it's a matter of, like, let's say there's a hole that big, and you're on this side in chaos, and is on the other side, and you just got to kind of try to get what you want and pull it through the other side, and hope it comes through mostly intact, and as you imagined it. And it doesn't often come through, and certainly for me, it doesn't come through nearly the way I imagined it. Oftentimes it's better. Most of the time it doesn't live up to my expectations. But that's a beautiful interaction, and I really enjoy that part of it.
I do as well. So I've got a quote and then I've got a thought on this quote. So, art is the triumph over chaos. This is from John Cheever. I'm not familiar with this individual, but I liked how that was phrased because it's kind of the opposite way of looking at how what you said, right? Because it's looking at it as this victory. Because for me, when I was thinking, when you're talking about that, the difference between potential and nothing is very there is no difference until something's manifested.
Yes, correct.
So it is a triumph that something was manifested. It is a glorious victory over
Oh, of
that blank
course, definitely.
canvas.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, if you were able to, but it doesn't take away the beauty of that blank canvas.
Oh no,
Uh,
no.
yeah, no, I would agree. Obviously, a blank canvas something needs to be painted on it, but I'm not daunted by the blank canvas. I think it's great. I'm like, oh, it's so perfect. Let me mess it up.
That's a great way to do
I'm
it.
chaos. I'm chaos in that instance. The blank canvas it's orderly.
No,
It's
it's
very
very true.
neat.
It's far too neat. But
Here I
a
am.
lot of artists I've met, that's always the big fear because they are overwhelmed by the potential. They're overwhelmed by the ideas in their head. They're overwhelmed by all these things. And many artists that are not artists yet. That's one of the first big things they got to get over. Is I'm
Mm.
just thinking on this thing, and all you do that. Nothing wrong with thinking.
Yeah, that's
Nothing
that
wrong with
that's a
thinking.
that's
But
a trap though,
exactly, it's a trap.
because then you're
I'm
just
always
living
gonna
in
do this thing, and
dream.
no, then again, and then you're living in that nothing, and not so much the potential, because the potential didn't exist until it became something, which is
Right. And
again just crazy of a thought. It
yeah,
exists
and
before and only after. It's weird.
well, if there are young artists or new artists who are in that state that Cody just described, from you're gonna screw it up, and a lot of it's gonna be bad, and it's
Yes.
not gonna be what you wanted it to be, and you're not gonna be able to fully realize all of your visions. But you have to start, and you have to work on it to even come close. And with experience comes the ability to more easily filter the chaos into cosmos. And that's really what practice is all about, and years honing a craft is all about. Is you just have an easier time bringing order out of chaos. So you have to start. You're going to be bad when you start. We unless you're this gifted, golden handed artist, you're going to suck when you start, and it's not going to be good. But you have to
I
start.
mean, I think even Mozart, right? What was he, four, five, six, something like that, when he started really like composing. Sure, the first couple notes he played weren't amazing. Okay, it might have been the next couple after that were, but like the first
Right.
two, right? Everybody start somewhere where it's rough, and that's the beauty
Yeah.
of it. You get to grow and build something both within your own self and your abilities, and you get to have things outside of yourself that represent that. And are a part of that journey, if nothing else. And that's a wonderfully powerful thing that I appreciate so much.
Well, and you also learn to appreciate others who do it
Yes.
so effortlessly or what appears to be
That's the big
effortlessly.
one. Yeah, it's true. All the true masters and maestros in every extreme talent. There are I think like the average is you're supposed to put 10,000 hours into
Right.
a skill, usually an art, before you can be considered a master. And those masters, we've seen their works. Can you imagine carving something that looks and appears so soft out of marble? Right, there's just that it looks effortless and it looks beautiful and smooth and flowing and you can almost feel the cloth moving, but that is rock. Right, that's one of the greatest bits, or the most talented musicians moving through these concepts and shapes, scales, the order, the ideas and flow in their head, and applying that is so much practice of wrong notes and memorization and figuring out and study. There's so much time applied to get to that point that they can then share.
Yeah. And the whole time they were studying, they were reaching into chaos and they
Yes.
were trying to find something. And I think I may have spoken on this before, but that's really the reason why I don't study music theory and I don't read a bunch of books about my instrument. And I like to pick things up as I go. If I see somebody playing something and I hear something and it intrigues me, I will pursue that. But part of what I really love about creating music is that chaos element where I am sitting here with my guitar and I don't know everything about it. There are some who do, and they would say they don't, but I really don't. And I'll play and I'll start strumming and I'll improvise, and then something I hadn't thought of before, some sequence of notes, some augment of a chord happens, and I feel as though I've just discovered it because I have. For me, I wasn't
Yes.
the first man on the moon, but it's my first time, and and those are the moments that I really cherish, and that's why I love playing guitar and writing songs. Is those discovery moments, those moments where I reach out and I find something. Um, a friend asked me the other day to sort of give a metaphor for how I see writing music and that sort of thing. And the best thing I could think of describing what I was just saying is essentially that there's this dark pool of water in front of me, and I can't see into it. But it's not uninviting. It doesn't seem dangerous, and I just reach my hands in there, and I feel, and when I find something that interests me, I pull it out and then I examine it, and then it takes on a depth, and it takes I have an understanding of it, and I see maybe shapes in it, and I can pursue it further. But it's always that delving into putting my hands into that dark pool of water and seeking that's the exciting part of it for me.
All right. No, I get that. Yeah. uh, I It's been a bit. I've been in a lot of been trying to bring order to a lot of different chaoses. That's not art. But that is caretaking and important things. And so it's harder for me to focus on the artistic end of it. It's been a bit. Um,
Sure.
for me, though, again, it's plumbing the depths of how I feel and what medium I'm interacting with, and trying to pull something out of the experience for myself. That's through that. If it's painting, trying to find most of the time it's just trying to find that flow state because there's an amazing piece to it. But also what it creates tends to be more beautiful, quote unquote, whether you're looking for something ugly or something beautiful, more beautiful in the experiential terms. um
Right,
but
because 'cause you're not forcing.
exactly, it's not. I've tried to force it and it always comes
Oh,
out
yeah.
so much worse, and it's not a waste because it reminds you not to, but it's not very useful. uh but here's Woody Harrelson has this quote: chaos and creativity go together. If you lose 1% of your chaos, you lose your creativity.
Yeah.
That
That's why I think that a lot of these creators who make a lot of money and then they get older.
Nah,
Well, like D. Snyder said it. I think
yeah.
I may have mentioned this before. He said he's like, yeah, so I'm sitting there, I got my notebook, I got my pen, and I'm ready to write the next teen anthem. And he's like, I look over, there's a boat in the driveway, I got a swimming pool, I got a huge house. He's like, I can't think of anything to be pissed off about. And so he lost his chaos, you know.
That's funny because I
His
know
life had
what
become an orderly existence. He had
slightly
money, he
after
had
what
family.
Twisted Sister, if I remember right, he had a rough go at it for a good chunk of time there. Because Twisted Sister was a little flash in the pan compared to many other artists coming out at that time. Amazing music. I love D. Snyder.
Oh yeah, that's great.
But if I remember right, he was delivering pizzas for a while after Twisted Sister, which a lot of people don't realize. Even that level of success, it takes a lot not only to hold on to it, which is a whole different gift, but
Oh yeah.
to have actually like really utilized it and be able to continue to build from it. Particularly
yeah.
in like the rock and roll lifestyle, they try to drain you from every angle.
Oh, totally.
And I couldn't imagine talking about chaos, right? Imagine night after night after night, the only order is you're at a gig playing that same set. Everything else is move, 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 move. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. But many have.
But there is something to be said about, like, not having a life of total comfort and not being,
Yes.
because then you turn into latter day George Lucas,
Mm,
you turn into Rocky in Rocky 3,
yes. Yes.
and then Mr. T shows up one day and kills you, because
Poor Apollo
he's
Creed.
he's an agent of chaos.
I
But
I
that's
had to skip
exactly it.
past a couple Joker quotes on the way through here.
Rocky didn't have any, he had his life together. He had his
Yes.
money.
He
He
had a
had
statue.
Adrian. He
Yeah.
had the kids. He had a robot. Or
It
was that
truly
Rocky
did
4?
have a robot. Well, one of them he had a robot.
But and then somebody who didn't have all that, who was still living on the edge, who was
Yes.
coming up, who still had that, who was still reaching into that chaotic realm. Yeah, came for his title. So it's about that staying hungry, I guess,
Yes.
is the term that they
Yes.
use. But and there's even a Twisted Sister song called "Stay Hungry."
Yes. Yes,
Um,
there is.
but I guess another way to interpret that is, just keep in touch with chaos.
My a way I would phrase it is make sure that your art is fulfilling you and not the other way around. Because I think when you start working for the art instead of the art working for yourself or whatever you're gaining out of it, that's when it becomes very very easy for you to get in a rut because you're chasing something that's not true, or at least not
Mm,
truly knowable to you because it's not you. You're chasing the other
right.
instead of chasing the self. But I don't
Yeah.
know.
No.
I think again, it is incredibly important for artists to stay hungry. Don't starve. The starving artist trope is terrible and shouldn't be a thing. But make sure that what you're doing it fulfills you. It makes you want more.
Yeah, and if you don't have that urge, don't do anything. Take a break. I was just watching Hodorowski's Dune again, which is a documentary about the Dune movie that was never made by Alejandro Jodorowsky. And he was talking, and I really connected with him on this because it's totally how I function. I'm not one of these creators who's always what is the term when they're always creating something? They are a something type of creator.
Oh,
They are
okay.
when
I
you write a lot of books in a short amount of time, or
prolific.
prolific. I'm not a prolific artist. And
Neither
he
am
was
I.
saying, he's like, oh, sometimes I take 5 years and I do something, sometimes 20 years, you know? And that's a man who's not forcing it. That's a man
Yes.
who's fulfilling himself.
Yes.
And that's the way to be. And it's so antithetical to the modern life and
Yes.
what we're told, and you gotta put up 5 reels a day, you gotta upload 2 videos to YouTube, You got Snapchat on the Instagram with your TikTok. Cross
Yes.
reference all those. Tag, follow, all that every day, and that is just the death of art, amongst other things. So, I felt that pressure because I'm alive today, and I want to try to maintain whatever presence I have established. If somebody knows who I am, I don't want them to forget me. But not but so I have been tempted to push. And when I've done that, I've just come up with crap. And crap I would never release, and crap that never made it past the thought phase, because there was nothing to it, because it wasn't real. And so after, putting out Chuck, it's been, I don't know, just about 3 years now, that since I released Chuck, my second album, and I'm like halfway through writing another one. So it takes me time,
Oh yeah.
and but I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm not chasing the dragon, you know.
That's the
Uh
big one, and again, some people are prolific, as you're talking about. They can't spit out
yeah,
much,
good for
and that's
them.
how they do. I work my co-editor, co-founder, Ironverse Comics. He's prolific. He spits out work. That's just something that he needs to do, and it. Honestly, I've never read a script of his that I didn't enjoy, but nonetheless, I mean, it's incredible that people can do that. For me, it's the same thing. In fact, I chase multiple mediums and stuff for that, because doing the same thing again and again, or chasing the same lines for my own self, I feel like each medium and each expression, particularly the comic book work, what I'm trying to do with it requires more life experience and growth behind it, and I don't do that by trying
Right,
to force it. I do
right,
that
and you
by
don't.
living.
Exactly. No, and I've heard that, and I've heard this
Yes.
said by a lot of people complaining about, like, new people in various industries, is they just
Yeah.
don't have the experience. They don't have the life experience.
Yeah,
And
that's
they and
true.
I'm gonna be 32 in May. So are you, Cody. I'm
Yes,
sorry to
indeed.
out you.
My God.
Uh,
I know I'm an old
but
man.
obviously age doesn't have anything to do with life experience, but it can be a factor. And certainly,
What is it? You don't have to be old to be wise.
yeah, I grow sick and tired of the same old lies.
Yes.
Might look a little young, so what's wrong?
And that song only got more meaningful as they got older. Watching old
For
Rob
real.
sing that, for me, like, that really, like, it's just one of those. I really appreciate that.
Well, I remember I have, and I'm sure a lot of us have experienced this, especially those fortunate enough to still be somewhat in their youth.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember there had been several instances when I was younger, and talking about maybe a TV show with somebody, like, for example, Star Trek, the original series. Um, I was having a conversation with somebody at the video store, and Star Trek came up, something like that, and I love that series. Like, I grew up watching that series. It was shown to me when I was a kid. I grew up with it, just like people who were kids when it came out. I grew up with it, and I said something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, Star Trek. I love that show. I grew up with that stuff." And they're like, "You're a child. What do you know?" It just immediately just disqualifying anything I had to say just because of my age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Clearly they had not heard that Judas Priest song. Um,
No.
yeah, so I think, so what I'm saying is that I don't think that age has everything to do with it, but experience has everything to do with it. And there are people who've lived half as long as me who've lived twice as much life.
Yes. Very much
And
so.
because I've been misjudged on that point so many times, I really try not to do it to other people.
Same, same. No, I've had that as well. I try to look at everything as a blank canvas and take it as bluntly and directly as possible,
Yeah,
whether or
no
not
assumptions.
that's yeah. I approach everything with an open heart, which is sometimes painful, but it's also very it's not only how I learn and understand things, and again being open to that chaos. Again, we're talking about people, being open to
Mhm.
that chaos. That's as we're talking about art, that spark, the potentiality, all those things, all the wonderful things when we were little, if we hadn't been open to meeting and playing together, we wouldn't be here, right?
Right.
Like that's chaos being thrown in a box with a bunch of other kids, and it's a
Yeah.
total
Getting shook
chaos.
up. See what happens.
Exactly, it's pretty much. I mean, and it's one of the better parts of public school, is that melting pot aspect of it, at least for a while. I very blessed, smaller schools than most people will experience in their lives. I would almost
Right.
guarantee worldwide, but
Oh yeah.
nonetheless, I think also if you're thrown into that more chaotic, more dense, chaotic swimming pool, there I'll call it, you're gonna learn to swim quicker than I did.
Yeah, and you're probably gonna be a stronger swimmer.
Yes, exactly, and that's all gifts from your friend Chaos.
So I think we've talked a lot about really positive aspects of chaos. We've touched on it, but like we should probably see if we can get to the real
So
nasty, nitty
okay.
gritty,
So one
dirty
of
side.
the chaos itself again is just the potential. So it's mainly it's children, it's spawn that's rough, trauma, violence, hate, um, certain death. Um, we can go chaos of the elements in terms, earthquake, all that, but then it's children's away. It itself isn't doing
Right.
anything.
I
It's what
guess what I'm
happens.
thinking is
Yeah.
just the idea, this lack of order, and all
A
the
lack of
all
yeah.
and what can come of that.
It's tough for me to blame that on chaos itself, because again, chaos seems to be more that state of potential before something, right? Um, but
I guess that's how you're seeing it.
yeah, and so if it's uh, I mean, you're in a middle of a battlefield and everybody's shooting everywhere and you got your head down, rocks are flying, like that's chaos, right? It's a whole bunch of crap's going down.
Yeah, exactly.
Till that bullet hits you or hits a friend or what have you, it's still chaos. But once it's there, it's violence, right? It's this other beast. It's a child of chaos.
Well, I feel like they can, yeah. Well, okay, a child, sure, because I feel like both can exist at the same time. I don't feel like
Yes.
as soon as it manifests into something, I don't think chaos dissipates.
No,
It's
no,
just
no, no,
it's
no.
just they're both present now.
No, I would say
The
too,
spawn
like each
can
brush
turn
stroke,
into
just
that.
because you put one brush stroke on the canvas doesn't mean the potential's gone, right? It's the same concept.
Right, right. Okay.
But so that's why I'm having a hard time rooting that and blaming it on that as what we found and kind of connected to is potential, and potential
Right.
is pre.
I think what it
And
one
so if it's
thing.
pre, it's also nothing. So it's hard to blame nothing for so much.
Well, I guess daydreaming and not doing anything about it, wanting and not pursuing,
Mm,
desiring and not achieving,
mm.
I think that's a form of chaos because it's just this lack of order. And there's obviously a
Oh,
potential of order because
okay.
you know what you want, you know what could be, but it's not being pursued
So the
and it's
thing
not
that I
being
could connect
achieved.
to exactly, and that's where you're going with it. And I can go. So insanity, right? Difference between sane and insane. So insanity would be a constant wave of chaos. You don't exist outside of that potential, and that causes so
Right.
many different things. And that's
Like
where
the
you're going
Joker.
to. Yes, exactly right. Well, he tries to bring order to it. It's just that definition of order is
Right, well, and even
oh
he just go
yeah
he'll be pursuing one thing and then, nah,
yeah.
just,
I don't know what I do if I got a hold of it. Yeah, yeah, totally. Like the
exactly,
dog
just
chasing the car.
discard.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that that's easy to do, well, especially when you're young and you don't have, like, a lot of confidence in something, and or if it becomes difficult, you pursue something just to the point where it becomes difficult, and then you just drop it and you move on, or if you just you know what I'm saying? Like,
I
that's
do.
chaotic behavior, and that's unhealthy behavior. Eh, there
Is there a difference between erratic and chaotic?
uh,
Because I would define
there's
that
that
more
that
as
seems
erratic than
that
chaotic.
sounds pretty synonymous because I think chaos is just the lack of order.
Well,
It's just
It's there's a quote here that said chaos and order are not what is it?
Or
They're opposites, they're not enemies. They're two sides of the
right,
same coin. Um
sure. Yeah, see, so it says get complete disorder and confusion. In physics, its behavior so unpredictable as to appear random, owing to great
no.
sensitivity to small changes in conditions.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that I think the root of it is existing in chaos for too long.
Yeah,
I think that's a in itself. It you know
directionless, sort of. I
yeah.
think.
You're drinking too much or what have you. You're taking you're it's a similar kind of crutch, and some people could get addicted to chaos. Um, uh, and I think just like many other things, and so they seek that out in a lot of different forms. I think hoarding is, even though you think it's order because they're placing it in a place that it might never move from, it's a very orderly chaos. Um, it's from a very not so calm, orderly mind, right? Um, there's a lot of different manifestations of negative chaos. Like there's a lot of positive, and we did focus plenty on the positive. And
Yeah,
I think it's a lot in like everything. And we talked about the quantum physics. It's how you're perceiving it, and at the end of the day, almost how you choose to perceive it in a lot of ways. Um, that'll allow you to master the chaos or become a slave to it.
yeah. One example I was thinking of is just a directionless entity that just kind of bounces wherever, sort of a fatalistic individual who just lets things come as they may and doesn't really try to steer the ship in any way. That could lead to, well, it's a huge gamble. It could lead to just destruction, or it could lead to something great. But I think maybe that's something to think about, the kind of gamble of chaos and that problem, because gambling can become a very addictive
Mm-hmm.
act, and when you're and that's all chaos. So um yeah, and there are people who are just get addicted to that disorderly way, and they're not good at order, and it trips them up, and they can't handle it, and it's just bad for them.
No, very much so. And as we talked about a lot, art is an attempt to channel it, to put a rudder to that boat that's kind of just careening down the river, right? Um, and
Yeah, or to crash the boat intentionally.
also true, also very true. Um, and I know chaos is absolutely a just like the flow state, but I think again the flow state is grabbing a rudder and then going with that bit of quote unquote chaos. But it's very oh man, I lost that thought. I lost that thought. That's too bad.
Sacrifice to chaos.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have a whole lot of further thoughts on the
Neither
subject,
do I. I think
honestly.
we explored both pretty well. I mean, the negatives of chaos, like it would be hard to discuss further than just again losing yourself to it and the detriments that come to that, or finding yourself stuck in a situation where that's the prevalent bit and not working to get out of it.
Well, I
I
think
know
it
many who have been stuck in that and find it easier to I don't know, adjust to it, or cope with it than try to grow out of it.
right.
And that's a very bad child of chaos right there. That'll no, there's no good ending to that.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I guess is a good, I'll have it as my final thought
Okay.
here,
Okay.
is that chaos. I think a good way to think of it would be as an element.
There you go.
Um, it's like a wildfire or a tornado or
A
a
fire's a
hurricane.
great expression of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and because the fire can be very useful, to us. It can save our lives. It can cook
Yes.
our food, but it can envelop us and it can destroy us and it can destroy everything in our world. It can kill everything. Um, so it's one of these things. It is one of these giants that we
Mhm.
have to just walk in the presence of and respect
That's a big one.
and respect it while we're maintaining respect for ourselves. Sometimes, if we respect a person or an entity too much, we can give ourselves completely to them. I
Yep.
think there's that balance of maintaining the respect for yourself while respecting these things that are greater than us and keeping a watchful eye on them.
Exactly. I think what move forward with diligence or what have you that the Buddha quote was saying um, is just make sure you're paying attention. Um, and most of what we've talked about here, which has been kind of funny, is most of these are tools we've talked about consistently. Almost they've all turned basically into talking about, again, it's a tool. It's how you use it that matters.
Right.
And chaos is one of the biggest ones. It is potential made manifest compared to others that we've talked about that are tend to be a little bit gentler if something goes wrong. This one's rough, but if this one goes right, it's one of those. It's unique. That's what's fun about it. Again, the first person to harness fire, that had to be a crazy thing. Everybody sitting around is freaked out, and he's just sitting there getting warm. Eventually, they go and kind of get closer to it and do it, and then he gets all the ladies. Uh,
Right.
but nonetheless, it's if the guy didn't play with fire, it wouldn't have shown up, right? And how many had played with fire before and didn't live to talk about it? Um,
Right.
and
And how
so
long did he live until he burnt the forest down?
exactly, right, and worked a week, right, and then oops, I
Yeah.
didn't understand this part of it.
Yeah.
Smash. But that's the nature of it. And again, respect, and it's a tool. You respect it as any other tool. You don't just go swinging a hammer around. It's got a very specific set of purposes. Chaos is not so different. But yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts on it. I think I appreciate the concept very much. It's very key to artistic expression, and
Yes.
I'm very grateful for its friendship.
Yes, as am I.
So, if you folks enjoyed this convo, you have any thoughts on chaos or any ideas that you'd like us to discuss, another giant that you've met that you're maybe mulling over and you'd like to hear these two goofballs talk about it, I'd love to see it down below. We'd love to hear that. Or get a hold of me at cowboy_steel on Twitter. Always get a hold of me. You can check out my work on InverseComics.com. You can see what I've done with my artistic chaos and what we've been able to make. And it's free to read, and I hope you enjoy it if you take the time to check it on out.
Yeah, and if you'd like to see some of my work, you can follow me anywhere. It's at Laguna Munta, just like it is on screen. I'm on YouTube, Twitter, all that sort of stuff. And I have music on Bandcamp. I've also done some work with Cody where I've written tracks inspired by his
Yes.
comic books.
Yes.
So you can see our sort of intermingling of our works and how I sort of interpreted his work musically, and so you can see how we work kind of indirectly. You can see how that worked.
Oh, I love it.
But
The second you hit IronverseComics.com, you'll start hearing a excellent track. I believe that's the Ambush at Coyote Pass.
nice, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and yeah, please leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of the format. If you think there's something we could be doing better, let
Yes.
us know.
I'm sure there
Yeah,
is.
we yeah we can we're not afraid of feedback, or we're not afraid of reaching into chaos and trying something new either.
No, not
So
at all. Yes, no. So please get a hold of us and let us know. And thank you so very, very, very much for your time. And yeah, we will catch you in 2 weeks from today, hopefully.
yep, chaos be with us.
Yeah, that's the thing. We were asking for it this one. Somehow we're here.